Welcome back to the Tide Hanger. This is Mike, and today on Retro Wednesday, I want to focus on m.a.s.k. Series 1, so the 1985 first series of figures and vehicles. Not going to go so deep into the playset. That's own episode. Gator m.a.s.k. is a toy line from 1985. The star of the show is the vehicle. The figures are more or less accessories. We're going to get into that as we look at each one of these vehicles, but this show was awesome. The toys were based off of one of the most exciting shows with an outstanding theme song that you can't seem to get out of your head. So let's start by looking at the first m.a.s.k. vehicle, and we're going to look at Condor. Condor vehicle, which was driven by Brad Turner, looks like just a standard motorcycle, and they did a really good job of making it look like a cool motorcycle. You even have all the controls in there with a sticker, but you also have detail in it. It's a tremendous amount of detail, paint in all of the little detail crevices. Looks like an excellent motorcycle. Just by itself would be a lot of fun. It only really has one action feature where it turns into a helicopter. And it's one of the simplest m.a.s.k. vehicles out there. There are very few parts to break, but yes, kids can find ways to break the little piece off of right here that holds it down, holds the propellers down, and then of course losing the windshield. Those are the most common issues with this guy. Or losing the figure's helmet and all that. Here is the figure. His mask is called Hocus Pocus. And for whatever reason, I don't know if they had two versions of this mask, but we're going to show the different versions of masks as we go, if I have both. Next up, we have Gator, which is an orange Jeep. And I have to admit, anytime I see anybody with an orange Jeep, I want to ask them if they're a m.a.s.k. fan. But Gator is one of the cooler ones. It actually has two vehicles in one, sort of, in a way. I do like how it has the interesting stripes on the hood. I do like the chrome wheels. They went out of the way to make even Goodyear signs on their rubber tires. Now, a lot of vehicles have a challenge with the rubber tires and the rubbers cracking and falling off. Also, accessories seem to get lost and broken. So finding this thing complete is a bit of a challenge, but it's not absolutely impossible. Now, I put this guy in here, Dusty Haze with Dusty Haze. This one actually comes with the Billboard Blast sign, I believe is the one he comes with. I have to look at that. But it has a different color mask, so I just think it's cool that it's the same thing, but it's just kind of a golden color, and I like the way that looks. One action feature is you have this gun that folds over. The gun folds over, and there it is. To shoot, bang, bang. And you can also throw this projectile bomb. Taking a look at Dusty Haze. Now, this is what I talk about when I talk about helmet variations. Now, this is the shorter version of the helmet, and then this is the longer version. Now, there are discussions on why they did that, and one is it a choking hazard? Was this smaller one a choking hazard, or did it just get lost? Then they added this extra little bump on the bottom, so A, it holds on better, but that holds on pretty good anyway, and it's less of a choking hazard. Now, that's the debate on what happens there. Looks like we've got some variations here, too, with yellow gloves and orange gloves. That is really cool. It's a boat. I like to eject it without a figure in there because sometimes my figure gets hung up, but here he goes, and now it's a boat. And you know, it's been a long time and I haven't checked, but I don't think this boat really does float, but we can find out one day. Also with this boat, I always thought it was cool, like there was a spot that fit the helmet just right. That's always interesting. Like you could put the helmet in there, you could fit the helmet in there and store it in there. That was always cool because, you know, he doesn't wear his helmet when he's trying to be in disguise and just drive around in his Jeep. Next up, we're going to talk about one of the most iconic vehicles of the toy line. And I would say it's one of the most iconic vehicles. It's not actually the most iconic vehicle of the toy line, and that is Thunderhawk. Thunderhawk is, well, it's obviously based off of a Camaro crossed with a DeLorean, and this is a cool looking toy. And this is one that everyone seemed to have when they were a kid. Like if you wanted one, you wanted this one. But I'm going to show you a few fun things about it that maybe you don't already know. It has a rear taillight variant. So this is red, and then that is clear. See, I never knew this back in the day, and it's really interesting to find these things out later on down the road. So what are the action features? You push this button and the wings pop up, and of course, he's going to be able to fly. Interesting too, there's actual seatbelts in there to hold them in so they don't fall out, but to look realistic. Then also, once you push that button, the back's supposed to pop up like this. It exposes the thruster jets, shows m.a.s.k, but also exposes a button. The jets also double as a button to release these bombs. So when you push them, bombs come out. This is Matt Tracker with his Spectrum mask, and as you can see, the one piloting this has the shorter m.a.s.k. There's the longer m.a.s.k. So there's another variation. Of course, we always want a screen accurate, so we wanted that m.a.s.k most. Here he looks like there's this blonde, chiseled face with the blonde hair. Next up, we have Hondo in his firecracker truck, and his mask is also called Blaster. This truck is really cool, very iconic, and people chase it. But I have a problem with this truck. The problem is I'm missing two pieces, missing the tire that ejects off, so I'll have to put a picture up so you can see that. And then there's a piece that holds this extra motorcycle on, but you get an extra vehicle with it, which is really cool. This is what Hondo looks like riding his motorcycle. And yeah, the motorcycle is simply a motorcycle. It doesn't actually do anything itself. And then the vehicle itself has working opening doors. You have lights on the roll bar. If you push this button, you would eject a spare tire. And the big thing is, when you push this button down here, it pops up. It releases these front guns, reveals that it says m.a.s.k right down here. Also shows that there are rear guns that come up missing a lot. Definitely a fun vehicle. You are going from just a standard truck to this big beefy machine. The Hondo figure is pretty cool looking himself, but the mask, I only have this mask, and this mask is the longer mask. And really, I think there's another one that stops, like where the red stops is where the mask stops, because that's all it's supposed to be. Everything else is the extra made up. I wonder if I can just modify one of these and just cut it off to have the right size mask. Next up, we have the most iconic vehicle, and this vehicle is Rhino. You see this in every promotion of the mask, and it looks good. Every time I see a purple truck too, I want to call it Rhino. And it has lots of chrome, which if you have lots of chrome, lots of opportunity to chrome to go bad. Included is Matt Tracker and Bruce Soto. Now everyone felt that you should have gotten the Alex Sector figure with this. And the Alex Sector figure actually came separate or with Boulder Heel, but we'll get into that in another episode or another edition. But let's look at the play features this has. On the back part here, you have a couple of play features. First off, you lift up on this and you can remove this extra part, and you put a figure in here. We'll do that here in a little bit. We have two buttons. One is the rammer, and the other one is the eject seat, which I don't know why you'd want to eject Bruce Soto like that. But now that we have Bruce Soto out, let's put him in here. And he has his mask lifter. And I don't know if there's a variation on the lifter mask or not. Be interesting to find out. But let's put him in here so he can ride around and have three little laser beams on this back little part. It's so cool that they thought of all this. This is almost like a split-second series in a way, which we're way away from a split-second series, but this is really cool. Now, I would push the ejector seat back in. These are all fragile. Pieces like to break very easily on this. Now the next part about it, this turns this into almost a playset. When you pull this back, you can lower this part, this ramp, and lift this up. You have yourself a playset. There's room in there for figures. There's a sticker for you. You can just see what's going on. They have a computer back there, and they're always doing something. And of course, a firing missile. Simply because the 80s were dangerous. It's because I always did think that this figure was based off of this artwork. But anyway, maybe the artwork is based off him. Same head, much different. A completely different outfit, costume, whatever you want to call it. Next up we have Switchblade, which has Miles Mayhem, and Miles Mayhem's mask is the Viper. Now this is kind of a fun vehicle, but it sometimes doesn't really make sense. Some things don't make sense, we'll talk about that. But when you push this lever on the side, the helicopter mode, the helicopter spins. These pieces easily get lost, and yeah, it just happens. But if you want to convert it into its attack mode, you have to push these down and lift this up to release the wings. Then you fold this up, and so these guns will end up popping out, and so will these front guns end up popping out. Now mine, it's held in place with this little clip. That clip keeps coming loose. But anyway, now you have the jet. The jet's cool, it's a standard jet, and it gets the job done. A lot of people complain that there's no actual engines right here, although you see it in the cartoon. And it's supposed to have a bomb that drops, which mine does not. Well, you have an actual working canopy, which is great. And let's go ahead and pull the Miles Mayhem out of here and have a look at him. Miles Mayhem looks cool, just like in the show. And I think his mask is exactly what you'd want. I don't think there's a variation to the mask, because it's exactly like the show. Looks really good. This vehicle is hard to get with everything working right. There's not a lot of parts for it, but the few parts there are can break very easily. Next up we have Jackhammer, which looks like a Ford Bronco. And it's a pretty cool vehicle too. Very common. Everybody seems to know what this one is. And this thing seems to hold up no matter what. Under any circumstances, this thing seems to always be working. What does it do? It has, well, a two-step function. You pop this up, and you have the gunner station. You lift this to reveal front guns, and as you roll, the front guns shoot. Look at all the action features. There are so many complex action features in M.a.s.k vehicles that could go wrong. And there's supposed to be another gun to put in here. So he has 3 guns. Not just the 2 guns right here, but the guns here. Now I have a gun that fits, but it's not the right one. So anyway, I got a lot more things to pick up for the toy line. Still having lots of fun collecting for it, even in 2020. This is Cliff Dagger and his mask, the Torch. That's why he looks like a pirate. That was Jackhammer. Really fun vehicle. Next up we have Piranha, and it comes with the figure. This is Sly Rex. And Sly Rex is a cool character in himself. And he does, I don't think I have the variation of his helmet either, but this helmet is pretty cool. It's stiletto and it shoots out little darts. And he can ride on here. He has a sidecar, and his whole gimmick is the shooting sidecar. Let's see if it'll shoot. When it shoots out, the wings expand, and of course you'd want this because it's a submarine sidecar, and it goes into the water. It actually floats a bit. Putting it back on can be a bit of a challenge. You have to close up the wings and the guns as you simultaneously slide it back on for it to look like the sidecar again. The windshield usually comes broken. It breaks very easily where it connects. But aside from that, a pretty fun toy, bit fragile, and pretty common because it was one of the cheaper ones back in the day. A few other things I want to look at before we wrap this up is I do want to show this is a M.a.s.k annual. and it's just a book. I've seen Centurion annuals and stuff like that. That it's kind of like a comic book. I've seen ones that people say are annuals, and it showed the toys. This just shows different pictures and scenarios, but it's still really cool. A lot of fun. m.a.s.k also had several comic books. They were kind of fun too. I use them as art in my displays. And you can see back behind there some of the packaging, some of the boxes. The packaging was pretty cool. Very reminiscent of the 80s era and looked really good. So let me know what you think about m.a.s.k in the first series, the first season, first set of toys, 1985. Like, subscribe to our Dear Pinger out.